Understanding the creative process is key. Not just for artists, for anyone. Whether you're solving a problem at work, figuring out how to organize that very messy closet of yours, knowing the creative process can help you come up with solutions to any of those problems. At the end of this video, you'll know the 4 stages of the creative process, my visual interpretation of them, pretty cool pictures, and how to use these insights to be more creative in your everyday life. So grab a cup of tea or coffee if you're a coffee drinker, and let's get going. I've heard so often people tell me, I'm not creative. That's not true. Creativity is the very foundation of being human, of solving problems, of building worlds, and telling stories. We often think as science and art as separate, but I think they're much closer than we realize. Both are driven by the same fundamental force, curiosity and inquiry. The creative process begins with curiosity and leads to insight, leads to a product, leads to a problem solved, leads to an art piece. In science, that process simply has different labels, but essentially it's the same thing. There's observation and questioning, forming the hypothesis, experimenting, testing the hypothesis, then checking the results, and finally concluding. This mirrors Graham Wallas' 4 stages of creativity: preparation, incubation, insight, and verification. Don't worry, I'll explain it all later. Understanding this question between science and art is essential to understanding why asking questions is so important. Everything humans do is fueled by the same driving force, inquiry. So what is then the first step of creating? A few months ago, probably while standing in the shower or cutting an apple, I asked myself a question that kept nagging at me. How would you actually visualize the creative process? To answer this, I created a series of self-portraits that represent the creative process, at least visually. I call this interpretation from chaos to clarity. I want to start by sharing that visual interpretation with you, because I think once you see it, you'll have a better visual understanding of how the creative process unfolds. In my interpretation, the first step in the creative process is chaos. The chaos of the mind. You might feel bombarded with random thoughts and sparks of curiosity and ideas that just don't seem to connect. In the chaos of the mind, everything is mixed together. Inspiration, fragments of knowledge, and half-formed ideas. Chaos is often viewed negatively, but in the creative process, I think it's core. It's like a fertile ground where ideas keep accumulating. This is why chaos is essential. And yes, chaos is good. Number 1, diverse input. Chaos allows for the accumulation of diverse information. In this stage, you gather information and ideas from a wide range of experiences, of books, of conversations. Find out who his new friend was.
Look at that! Beautiful!
What did we just see?
So we saw the lemurs go, but 10 times louder. They were echoing. It was like sirens going off. They were like,
It was really loud.
Very lucky.
yes. She's sleeping.
Well, we woke him up. You may not yet know how those fragments all fit together, and that's okay. But the more you allow the chaos, the more potential connections you'll make later. 2. Chaos allows for unrestricted exploration. What the hell do I mean by that? The chaos in the mind is where boundaries don't yet exist. You're not limiting yourself to one solution, one path. Creative breakthroughs often come when combining unrelated ideas, and chaos creates the perfect environment for those combinations to eventually emerge. Think of the chaos of the mind as a storm. The clouds are swirling and it feels like everything's up in the air. You can't see clearly, but within the storm, energy is building. That energy, that clash of information, emotions, ideas, that is what'll lead to eventually something new emerging. Just as a storm will eventually clear and move by, so does the chaos of the mind. Paving the path for the next steps of the creative process. Stage number 2, I think, is frustration. You're sifting through all these chaotic ideas, testing them, trying to choose which one to pursue, which one is trash. The stage might feel uncomfortable, risky, unsure, but then inspiration hits. It's the aha moment. You settle on an idea that you chose from the chaos of the mind. You start working on it, and you gain more clarity as you work on it. This is where execution comes in. You start executing that idea. You start bringing it to life. And finally, clarity and vision. So through the process of taking action and actually working on that idea, you start to have more clarity and a vision starts to form. That's why I think actually taking action on your ideas is so important. Your idea needs to be executed, to be put out into the real world in order to be tested, refined, improved. Otherwise, you'll just never get real world feedback. Real, that is hard to say. And it'll just be forever stuck in the chaos of the mind. Okay, so now to the traditional 4 stages. My interpretation and those stages are surprisingly similar to the first time the creative process was defined by Graham Wallas in 1926, which I only came across while doing research for this video. Graham Wallas was an English scholar and co-founder of the London School of Economics. So Wallas outlined 4 stages of the creative process: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. So what the hell does this mean? Preparation. In this stage, you investigate the problem from all angles. It's the research phase where you gather information and ideas and notes and just fill your mind a little. This kind of aligns with the chaos of the mind I described earlier. Your brain is collecting ideas, but none of them are organized yet. That's why it's so important to keep reading, to keep learning, to keep noting things down. Everything adds to this chaos of the mind. So this preparation phase is kind of your little toolkit where you gather everything that might come in handy later on. So a tip is to start keeping a notebook and write down anything, literally anything, that sparks your interest. You never know when an unrelated idea might become relevant later on. Personally, I have a whole freaking system of notebooks for this. So if you're interested in how the hell I organize my ideas, let me know in the comments. Second tip or takeaway that might stem from this stage of preparation. Never think that something you learn about or a random tangent of interest you might go on is irrelevant. You never know how that piece of information might inform other ideas you have. Step 2 is the incubation phase. Incubation is when you stop consciously thinking about the problem and your ideas are simmering in the background, like leaving a pot on the stove after you finished cooking and the soup just needs to simmer. Wallas highlighted how this stage often involves you stepping away from the problem and just allow your brain to think without any pressure associated with it. To quote Wallas, he also mentioned, "We can often get more results in the same way by beginning several problems in succession and voluntarily leaving them unfinished while returned to others than by finishing our work on each problem at one sitting." So according to this incubation phase, it's certainly not a coincidence that our best ideas come while running to the bus in the morning or singing in the shower. To quote Helmholtz, "In all directions, happy ideas come unexpectedly, without effort, like an inspiration. So far as I'm concerned, they have never come to me when my mind was fatigued, or when I was at my working table. They came particularly readily during the slow ascent of wooden hills of a sunny day. So yes, go spend time doing unproductive stuff. It's probably the most productive thing you can do." So, stage 3, we've reached the aha moment. Kind of similar to my inspiration phase. This is the flash of insight where everything just clicks into place. Wallas described this as a sudden and unexpected moment of clarity. So after this illumination phase, according to Wallas, you move into the 4th phase, which is verification. So this is where you actually implement, you test, you iterate upon your ideas. It's the phase where everything comes together into something concrete. This could involve sketching out ideas, prototyping, creating mind maps, taking those pictures, starting that project. A takeaway from this verification stage is you have to test and iterate. Just like I said in my stage of clarity and vision, don't expect to get the perfect results or perfection upon the first iteration. It's only through iteration that you'll actually get feedback from the world, from people, rather than having those ideas catch dust in the corners of your mind. There's one thing that I have a bit of an issue with these stages of creativity. It seems like we go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, when I think creativity is non-linear. I think it's an iterative, a circular process. Ideas are deeply interconnected, and we often only notice in hindsight how they fit together. You don't move smoothly from one stage to the next. Instead, creativity is this back and forth between clarity and chaos, or preparation and verification, according to Wallas. This happened to me with the self-portraits I'm using to illustrate this whole process. I had a question in my mind, and it was floating around in what I call the chaos of the mind. But I just couldn't come up with an answer. I just didn't know how to visualize it. Upon a burst of inspiration, I was taking self-portraits. And initially, these self-portraits had nothing to do with this question about the creative process. It was only after I'd shot those images that I noticed they perfectly fit the stages of creativity. In retrospect, I could see how everything came together, how those ideas were incubating in my mind, even though I wasn't consciously aware of it. So that certainly was not linear. If you take anything away from this video, take away with you the concept of the chaos of the mind. In the chaos of the mind, nothing is finalized yet. Your ideas are floating in a space where they haven't been judged or evaluated. This is the stage where your creativity thrives because it allows for possibility. Ideas come and go. Some you'll immediately execute. Some will stay in a dustpan corner of your mind for years, until suddenly one day, that idea connects with this idea I just had. So next time you find yourself stuck with anything, any sort of problem, and frustrated about it, remember that that's part of the creative process. It's part of solving a problem. Trust the journey from chaos to clarity, because it's those breakthrough moments that come when you least expect them. I strongly believe that creativity is about embracing that chaoticness of the mind and trusting yourself and your mind that you'll connect the dots when you least expect it. It's all part of your creative toolkit. So, be curious. Until next time.